The champ is here with some pretty interesting topics, so good you just have to keep listening to find out. Please welcome the owner of Story Estates, Elizabeth Story.
All right, and she's back. The champ is in the house. Elizabeth Story, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great to have you here. Now, I know we've got a lot of people intrigued.
Yes.
Because, myself included, how can you sell your home without paying a commission?
Magic. Also, we have a platform that we're offering. I'm part of Alice and James Elite. Story Estates is part of Alice and James Elite. And we have partnered with an auction platform where we're able to list the homes. We can get up to 75,000 more unique visitors than all the other sites combined. And we're able to put the home on the auction platform without having to charge the seller any commissions.
Okay, so when I hear the word auction, I immediately think that's good for the buyer, right? Auctions are where you go to buy stuff for cheap. So explain how this would be different.
So we actually, the transverse of that, there's reasons why it's good for both the buyer and the seller. Anybody who has ever gone to a sale, you usually go and you spend more money when things are on sale. Or you've heard of the auction effect. Well, there's a reason why the term was coined to begin with. The auction effect, where you're trying to outbid other people. Sometimes it may actually create this desire for something even more so, you know, when you do the takeaway, so you might actually end up spending more money than you would if it hadn't been on auction. So that's where it's good for the seller. Furthermore, it's a traditional retail listing. We set the auction date, and then we go ahead and we can still hold open houses. We can still accept offers before the auction, but we can also, if we don't get offers before the auction, we can go ahead and do the auction platform. And what it also does for the buyer is it creates transparency. There's a difference between asking price and selling price and market value. Well, when you have a bidding platform where you can see what other people are also willing to pay, then you know the home's true value. And for example, I just accepted an offer on a transaction where we had 7 offers, and I had to call for highest and best. So the buyers are all competing against each other, but they have no idea what other people are submitting. And I've heard it, 1,000 times. If I would have known it would have only taken an extra 500 or an extra 1,000, I would have done it. So now it creates that transparency for the buyer too, where they can see exactly where the home ends up, and they can go up to their absolute maximum they're willing to spend.
Okay, so I like the idea of not paying the commission. I'm your seller. I like the idea of not paying the commission, obviously.
Yeah.
In top market, I kind of feel like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have to pay a commission, all right? But someone's got to pay it.
Right.
So how does that work?
It gets built into the buyer's purchase price.
Gotcha.
So the price that we put on for the auction, and then there's a 5% surcharge that goes to the buyer. And that ends up getting distributed in a way to make so that there are commissions that get paid, but they just don't come out of the seller's side of the transaction.
Gotcha. So the buyer pays for it, basically.
Basically.
Okay. And so what happens there then, now if I'm the seller, I set a price and say I want to get at least this much, or how much say do I have? Are we committed to whatever the highest price is, or how does that work?
Exactly. And so the seller still maintains absolute control. They still have veto power over any offer. They can set their minimum, and they can still review offers and reject them as well. So it's a platform to help you receive and collect more offers, but your hands aren't tied. So as a seller, you still maintain control over what you want to make at the end of the day. And let's say if you don't get your price that you want on the first auction, we can auction it again.
Gotcha. Okay, so you go through the normal price, we list the home, we do the open houses. Let's say some offers come in. Do we just tell those people who write the offers that, hey, we're going to be holding the auction at this time, show up and make your offers there, or can you just take the offers and insert them into the auction? How does that work?
You can take the offers. We can take the offers and postpone the auction, or not do the auction at all. So let's say, let's use nice round numbers. Let's say you want to sell for $1 million. You get an offer for $995, you counter, they come up to $1 million, and you're happy. Then you can postpone the auction or cancel it altogether. You're still bound by the auction terms, but that's okay because you got the price that you wanted and you're happy.
Have you talked to sellers about this? I mean, I'm sure you have, obviously. What's their feedback been on it? Are they Do they get it?
Not everyone does. It's not for everyone. It's still pretty cutting edge. There's other brokerages that have brought similar things. You know, Harcourt's was a big overseas brokerage. They've come to the States. They've started doing their auctions, and this is a unique platform, different than the Harcourt's platform, and they've had success with it. And there are sellers who are on the cutting edge, who are trendsetters, who are interested in it. We're looking to see if millennials are also interested in it because they're so tech savvy and they like to do everything online. So it's just yet another tool to stay on the cutting edge and change the face of real estate. But it's not for everyone. Some people, you know, there are certain buyers who don't like the competition. So it's definitely for people who, you know, want the competitive edge and also want transparency in their transaction.
It would seem to me that it would work really well if you had a hot property. In other words, if you had a home that was turnkey, updated, in a desirable area, that would be sort of the perfect home to put, because there's a lot of demand there. People will line up out the door pretty much no matter what you say for those types of homes right now in this market. So to auction in that type of home seemed to me would make a whole lot of sense. Yeah. You would be able to really get the maximum amount that someone was willing to pay, it would seem. But I could also see, I mean, well, what would the downside be? I mean, what's the downside to this thing?
There really isn't. There isn't a downside, especially considering, once again, that if you don't get the price that you wanted on auction, then you don't have to sell it. So there really is no downside. It's just another tool to help you reach a bigger auction platform. So we're having, you know, up to 75,000 unique visitors per month to the site. So it's just more exposure.
Okay.
You know, Zillow didn't exist before Zillow got created. Realtor.com didn't exist before Realtor.com got created. There's always new and innovative ways. I mean, so this is just one new innovation.
Interesting. What do you think about, speaking of Zillow, let me slide this in here. What do you think about the coming soon, or what is it called? Preview before you sell on Zillow. What is it called?
Yeah. So Zillow, they've been in fierce competition. So Zillow bought Trulia. I'm sure everybody knows that by now. So Zillow and Trulia are part of the same group. And then Realtor.com. Those are the main two players nowadays. And in the past, Zillow, you were allowed to manually enter listings. Well, what happened is it started creating phishing. There was some fraud. There was duplication. Consumers complained about the accuracy of the site. So starting May 1st, Zillow will no longer allow manually entered listings. They need to come from MLS feeds. However, they will still allow coming soon ads.
Yeah,
yes.
Coming soons. What do you think about that?
Well, I think if you know how to work the system, it won't affect you at all because you always just put it on Zillow first. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Do you think that it's a potential issue with Zillow using their platform to be like essentially the MLS? You know, in other words, you know, where agents might say, well, let's just put it over here, photos and everything that gets ready to go. It's not coming soon, it's ready to be on the market, but we're putting it on Zillow first. Do you think there's any potential conflicts or issues there?
No, you know, overarchingly, the trend that I have seen, especially in the last few years, is that people want representation. And agents who are attempting to double end a transaction by keeping it off the MLS, sooner or later they're going to get a call from somebody else's agent, and it's usually sooner. Because people nowadays, they like having their own agent, they like having representation. Not everybody's running around trying to work through their listing agent. So,
okay.
And the other thing, I really don't know why Zillow's doing that, because we already have an MLS. We don't need another MLS.
Right.
Zillow used to be its own thing. The minute that Zillow becomes just like the MLS and we're bound by all the same restrictions, then I'm not as enticed to use it the way that I have in the past. So honestly, I don't really know that it's a smart move.
Okay, interesting perspective. I'm glad I asked you the question. The champ, Elizabeth Story, everybody. Of course, stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else, commercial free.